You know, he once rolled as the gangster rapper D Black, a gang member from the streets of Seattle. But now, in the sun-drenched streets of Israel, he answers to the name of Nissim Black. He's been there, he's seen it all, and he's joining us tonight.
When you wake up in the hood, you smell death in the air every day.
Rap music is a beautiful form of music, but we've used it to abuse women, sell drugs on tracks, gangbang. Grew up around Jews, seen them in black, never seen them black. But you for sure are gonna feel different when everybody is staring at you.
Nissim Black, welcome to the show. Welcome to Rabbis Unscripted. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Nissim, you're looking great, man. We have missed you so much. We remember reminiscing about that time you rocked up after a flight from Seattle. You rocked up in a cab outside my house. You're like, man, I'm in London. What the heck's going on? And you gave me a major cup of tea. And we just started to chill and started the friendship you've had with the JLE over these years. And it's just such an honor to have you on our show tonight. Thank you so much.
No, likewise. Thank you. Baruch Hashem, I'm very, very happy to be here. I miss you also. Like I said, we'll see who misses who more when you get this bear hug I got waiting for you.
Amazing.
A little guest. Come in.
Oh, yeah, go on, let him come in. No, go on. Let's say hi. Yeah.
Okay, when you have 6, this is Nachman. Nachman, you need to go to sleep. Nachman will only go to sleep if I help put him to sleep, and that's somewhat of the problem.
Okay,
Nachman,
you can put on,
sorry, go on, Dob. What are you saying?
I say you put Nachman down under your tits there, and he'll just fall asleep, man. He'll just go.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
That's right. It's live show, ladies and live show.
Nachman is so sweet. Let me just guess who he's named after.
Yeah.
Can you guess?
Yeah,
I think we can. Nachman, let me just see. Nachman, good night, boy. Good night, baby boy.
Good night. Good night.
Nachman, do you love Rabbis Unscripted? Yes. Okay, listen.
You guys get to see the real me.
Yeah. Listen, we've got lots of questions for you tonight. We've got questions from myself and Benji. We've got people writing to us on Facebook Live and even people trying to call in as well. So we've got lots to get through and the time is short. So just obviously want to start off and we have to start off with this, you know, the shocking scenes, the harrowing scenes that, you know, have come out from America in the past 2 weeks, you know, and let's talk about this now, you know, that video clip, you know, of George Floyd, you know, when you saw that video clip of George Floyd being murdered, what were the first thoughts that ran through your head at that time?
It was one of anger. Like, you know, that was the first thing for me, was angry. And more than being angry about the fact that it was a white man doing it, I was angry at the human. I was angry at the injustice. Like, how can a person be screaming that they can't breathe and you have no heart, you know? I didn't even know what it was about at that point. I didn't know how much there had been to resist, but it just, you know, I was very upset that there was no, the coldness of a person's heart to be able to do something like that. And to, you know, it was very, very painful to watch, very, very painful to watch. And, you know, it's not something that we haven't seen in recent years. It's something that continues to seems as though it's a pattern. It's something that continues to happen. And, you know, so each time it happens, I think the anger goes up.
Well, obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about your reaction, people's reaction across America, and also obviously the reaction that we have here from the UK and our audience. But just for those of you who are meeting you for the first time, and maybe I don't know whether do you want a second to put Nachman down, because we don't mind. We're happy to have him on the show or off the show. He's happy to be a little bit of the little mini celebrity here for the UK. Do you want to?
Shut the door. Listen, I'm telling you, I have 6 of them right now, and You have to bear with me that through the corona.
If you listen, you don't understand what it's like. I've got 5 kids tied up here next door to me by the door. Like I had to tie them up. They'd be racing in here, believe me. And by the way, the show they'll all run in as well. So we're with you, man.
We're very happy to have him on the show. I just wanted to give you a minute if you wanted it. Anyway, either way, just for the listeners here are hearing for the first time and meeting you, and definitely National for the first time, take us a little bit back to your upbringing in Seattle, your own experience with maybe brutality, racism, growing up as a Black person in Seattle and being there from the United States, telling us a little bit about your own personal experiences.
Well, the good part and the sad part is, growing up in Seattle, Washington, which is a very beautiful place, one can live his whole entire life there without experiencing blatant racism, meaning that there's for sure, obviously same thing, brutality from the cops, from the police. That was something that we were experiencing in our own neighborhoods by innocent bystanders, innocent people. There was at one point, I don't know, that somebody very similarly to what we're seeing today, but on a very microscopic level, got so upset that, he went on a rampage and murdered several police officers day after day after day before they caught him. So, just at his outrage of what was happening inside the community. I watched, personally, my family be raided by the FBI when I was 8 years old. We were battle ran by the FBI, who came in. This is right after Clinton had declared the war on drugs. And, it was like left and right, uncles and family members, cousins were, off on their way to the penitentiary. And so you kind of grew up in that lifestyle knowing that, it's only going to be, maybe one or two things that will happen in terms of your future. You're either going to be in jail or you're going to be in a cemetery. And outside of that, if you do make it, you're going to be a rapper or a professional athlete. Pretty much outside of that, people really didn't go outside of the box. You know what I mean? And that was pretty much the box that we were in. So we grew up expecting that. If you graduated high school, you know what I'm saying, you were like, that was like one of the biggest things, accomplishments that you can have in your family, because not everybody graduated, even high school. So you had to live a fast life. I was, like I said, exposed to this very early on. Both my parents sold drugs, so I seen this myself.
And did you see the brutality at that time when you were raided personally?
Absolutely, I seen that. I didn't have to experience it. I somehow always found a way to stay out of that type of mess. Even when I, definitely was living a different lifestyle, which probably sometimes I probably deserved some trouble myself. But I definitely was able to avoid it. But you've seen it, at the big gatherings or something like that. The police. I'm gonna tell you, the biggest problem, that I saw there myself was like, the systemic racism that we grew up with. It's like I said, it's not so blatant, but, you'll be at a predominantly African-American school, as we went to, and you're lowest on the test, on the test scores every year. The state test scores, you're flunking out. Why? You don't even have books. We were passing around Xerox copies, for almost 4 years of high school. But for some odd reason, some odd way, we were able to have brand new football uniforms, brand new basketball uniforms every single year. We were having a new stadium, new, basketball. We were having all of those things, and that's where the funding was going to. Same thing, as I got older, I noticed that the programs that were there and put in place to help get us off the streets and change it had government funding. All that funding had been taken out and shifted to the gang unit. So now you had no more kids that had these extra outlets and extracurricular activities in order for them to, be able to at least see that they can make a better decision with their life. But instead it's given to the gang unit, and the gang unit increases, and the police are, on every corner just as much as Starbucks, in West Seattle. So.
Can I ask, Nissim, can I just ask a question in here, just on that, like taking you back to those days? Did you ever ask yourself, like, where's white society? Like, where are the white people? Why aren't they coming in to stop this? Why aren't they coming in to help out here? Did you feel that there should be, the white people were being silent, that white society was letting you free? Did you have anger in those days towards the sort of white, white people in America? Did you feel anger then?
No, I mean, because I think part of it, the reason why is because Seattle itself is a very liberal city, and quite honestly, and I want to just say this, I don't take a side in terms of this. There's a tweet that was going out from Ice-T that I retweeted. He said, "I'm not on the right or the left because both wings are on the same bird." But I will say that. Most definitely, it's an interesting thing because gentrification swept through Seattle just like it did other major cities in other major states. Now, the interesting part is it depends on who's doing the gentrification. For instance, to go back to Seattle, and you have a very, very strong presence of the left that went and took over the predominantly African-American neighborhood of the Central District, right? And these people are out, they're marching, they're protesting with you. These are the same people that just gentrified your neighborhood. And because they put a Black Lives Matter sign and rainbow signs in front of their houses, then all of a sudden, then they're not the ones who just took over your neighborhood and gentrified you. So, it's a very, very hot topic, and it happens everywhere. And I feel like even now, watching as everything is taking place, I still feel like, as Black people, we're still being put in the middle of a pond or something, like we're being played with. This is really just a game, and other people will be set to gain from this. But I don't know how much the African American community will gain from this.
Well, Nissim, obviously, it's really, really, we very much appreciate it. I think a thank you on behalf of all our listeners. We've got a record number of people who've tuned in tonight to hear you, and it's really very much appreciated. And just talking to all the listeners out there, if you want to get involved in the show, you'd like to ask Nissim a question, then you can still email us now, rabbisunscripted@jle.org.uk. We're getting a lot of emails and a lot of questions coming in. But if you'd like to come on the show, email rabbisunscripted@jle.org.uk.
Perfect. So, Nissim, your story is like truly remarkable, and like I said, I've heard your story before. I interviewed you back when you came to England that time, and it was a very emotional interview, actually. Your story is incredible. We haven't got time to go into all the full details, but sometimes I can't believe it. Like, here is a photo of you here now as D Black. This is when it was the D Black days. We've got a photo, just to show you here. This is it.
Oh boy.
It's coming up online now. We've got a photo of those days in D Black, and I always said when I saw the picture, saw the photos, like there's a big smile. This one's a big smile, It's a nice smile. But there are other photos of you.
Smile was staged.
It was staged. Okay. I mean, we have got some other photos, where you're looking just more that sort of the pose. The menacing look, and I never could believe it's the same person now, knowing you are so loving and so kind. But my question is like this: how did that guy D Black become this guy, become Nissim? What took you to Judaism? How did you find Judaism? How did you get there?
I think one of the other beautiful things I could say about being in the place that I was because things were more, like I said, systematic and not so abrupt and in your face. I didn't grow up having a distasteful feeling towards white people, right? Or people that were not people of color. I just didn't have it. In fact, my zip code, I don't know if it still is today, but I knew growing up was the most diverse zip code in all the United States. So with that, I grew up very close in terms of proximity to the Jewish neighborhood in Seattle, Washington. And so I would see people walk up on Shabbat and everything, but I wasn't so connected at all to the community. It wasn't until years later, after having a rap career that was really on the bubble and on the rise, and I had made some records for like I think The Game at this time and Young Buck, and we were starting to see that some of the things we had worked so hard for start to really pay off for us. And at that time there was a rap. It was like a thing in rap to go back and forth with other rappers and diss records, and somebody made a song about me, And from that song that the person made about me, that spun into a major altercation, in which it led me to a kill or be killed situation. Literally, this other person, a friend of mine, tried to kill the other person I had the confrontation with, and he missed, and they thought that I sent him or set him up. So that put me in a very scary situation. Now, my background in terms of religion is first Islam. My grandfather was a Sunni Muslim who taught me Islam as a kid, and he lived with us for a short while. And so that was my like introduction to actual religion. And then by the time I was 13, my grandfather had went to prison shortly after his stay with us. And by the time I was 13 years old, I started going to the Union Gospel Mission, which was a Christian reach out center. And so for me being there and being connected with them, after being there for maybe a year, I converted to Christianity. And from there, I just continued to grow. But I was very devout as a young kid, and somehow found myself back into this, I would say, somewhat of a black hole in time. And so fast forwarding back to the situation, my point of reference after I got into this altercation was obviously Christianity, a lot of praying, a lot of crying. And so I cried out to God. And that situation, it fizzled out. By 3 days later, I got on the phone call, we put everything behind us. And I said to myself that, next time, this could be the real thing. So after making that sort of calculation, I decided to continue praying and trying to grow and get closer to God. And as I did that, I started to read more and more of the Bible, the Old Testament, Tanakh, as you will, at that time. And so I started to remember that I had a lot of questions as a kid when I was in Bible study group and different things like that. So I started to do my own research. And I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me about Judaism was the amazing love that God had for the Jewish people. I was very into eschatology, and I was very into looking at the Navi, and I came to a very interesting conclusion now, when I say that I came to a conclusion, for at the beginning of this, I was reading, I ordered a Quran, a few different versions of the Christian Bible. I had the JPF Tanakh and the Chumash, and I was sitting 8 hours a day trying to find the truth between these different texts. What stuck out to me the most about Judaism was the honesty in which it's talking about. It's the Jewish book, right? It's a book of Jewish failure. That's what it is. That's what it's constantly talking about, right? The more and more we fall, the more and more we fall away. And Hashem is, I'm going to do this. It's like, I started to imagine like Hashem's like, that parent with the belt. He's never going to really hit you, but he's got it up like, I'm going to, whatever. Because by the end of all the Nevi'im, all the prophets, it's words of restoration, manucha, comfort, and all these. And I said to myself, it's like nothing they do, they can do wrong. And I wanted to really be a part of that relationship. So I think that was like the biggest thing when I saw the love that God had for the Jewish people, and like I was drawing from the eschatology sense of it, the end times of that study, was that I came to a very interesting conclusion that may sound like heresy, but it's not. I came to the conclusion that if there's no Jews and there's no God, that the very fact that there are Jews proves God's existence, because the integrity that God he has is that everything that he plans on doing in the future has to involve Jews, and it defies what should be taken. If you give and take in what has happened in Jewish history and in humanity, it doesn't even make sense. So the fact that there's Jews, the fact that there's an Israel, obviously by our time post 1948, it has every indication that there's a God in the world. And to be absent of Jews in the state of Israel, then okay, you may have a case for atheism. But the Jew by itself is the very proof to me. And if you don't, in the Jewish book, you can also check the Quran, the Hadiths, because they believe that there's going to be Jews at the end. And so to the New Testament, and that's why Christians are number one funders of Jews making Aliyah. So
and listen, it's really interesting that you mentioned that, and I think that this is something that you allude to actually in one of your rap songs. But it's very interesting that you came from being a black person in America, where you said there's fundamental racism, and that you choose the Jewish people who themselves have got such a record, such a history of their own history of discrimination. Obviously, anti-Semitism and black racism, very different things, but very much you're joining now a new nation where that part of your journey. Let's take just a look at this clip where you call yourself Hitler's worst nightmare.
Ain't no monkey business, cause ain't no monkeys in here. I know what you've been thinking. The black Abe Lincoln just wanted you to be aware. Signing off as Mr. Black, Hitler's worst nightmare. Yeah.
You maybe just talk us through what you meant when you said what were you thinking when you wrote that line?
I think the hate that came from Hitler, Yimach Shemo, his name be erased, and also you talk about racism, right? You talk about such a guy who is completely the epitome of what hate is in the world, and to see all the anger and the anguish that he caused to Klal Yisrael, to the Jewish people, because now you can imagine, a lot of Yidden look German. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not something that it's like so far off. So can you imagine what he would have did if he was black? You know what I mean? So I took that and said, like, this would be Hitler's worst nightmare. Not only is he Jewish, but he's also black. How much worse could it get for a guy? And I also felt like it was a line of just sort of pride. And if you listen to the rest of the lyrics of that song, I'm going back and forth and connecting, my two worlds of saying that, not only am I black, but I'm also Jewish, and not only am I Jewish, but I'm also black, and I'm very proud of that, So I felt like that was sort of my way to say that I'm both at the same time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So we actually have now. We did warn you there might be some people calling in. So we have now a live calling from Jodeci, who's joining us live. Jodeci, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Question live to Nissim here online. Here he is.
Hello, Nissim. Hope all is well. How you doing? I follow you a lot, and I just want to say what you said was so inspirational. And I really appreciate what you're saying. I've got a question for you. Obviously, I'm a black Jew in London, and I've had occasions where, for example, I haven't been let into a synagogue, because of the color of my skin, or got stared at in the community. And sometimes I have this struggle where I kind of let the color of my skin affect my Jewish identity in the way I'm viewed. So my first question is, how have you dealt with that in Israel? Have you had any racism? And if you have, how do you take this whole self-identification as being a black person and being Jewish? How do you deal with that complexity and not let it affect you or hold you back?
Very good question. The answer may be a little loaded, but for time's sake, we'll try to cut it down. Definitely, I've experienced racism. I will say that because I honestly feel that, both my wife and my children, even more, have experienced it a lot more than I have, because I hold a certain position in the community of one of being a celebrity. So it's a little bit easier for people who may, call my kids, out of the name, or my wife or something out of the name, and then see me and go, wow, Nissim. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic, because you come to wonder, it's just like, how real is the love? You know what I mean? And so I think you guys can still hear me?
Yeah, it's better now.
Again, yes.
Because I can't hear you guys as well anymore. So I don't know why. So anyway,
Can you hear us?
You can hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. I need to figure out how to get you guys back on speakerphone. But anyway, so I think the biggest thing for me is that I looked at it as it's a very interesting thing, because people have this idea, and I have to answer this twice. People have this idea that any form of racism is all the same, right? racism is different, you know, and I've talked this over with many different friends, right? So when you're discriminated against in America, let's just say, let's call it a spade, in the community, outside the community, whatever it is, that racism comes with 400 years of oppression and baggage. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
The racism you experience, maybe say in a alley of Mea Sharim or at a park or something like that, they don't even have knowledge of that. You just look different than me. You understand what I mean? So, and because of that, and it's that thick under the surface. There's no principality stopping you from doing it. Now, it could be that you may not be called up for an aliyah or something. You understand what I'm saying? How much it will stop you and how much it's affecting the justice system and different things like that in Israel. I don't really think that that's. I'm not the person to speak on it because I don't do as much research here. But from what I see, the racism isn't as deep. You understand what I mean? So that's the first thing. So doesn't make it feel any better. It just isn't that deep. Second thing I would say also too, like this, is that when David HaMelech was running from when King David was running from King Shaul, right? And King Shaul wanted to kill him. King Shaul was anointed already by Samuel the prophet to be the king of Israel. But God was already, he's moving him out, he's moving King David in. King David's already been anointed, whatever. And Saul is going time after time to go and try to kill King David. King David doesn't separate himself from the truth, right? What is the truth? I always have to come back to it. What is the truth? The absolute truth is that Hashem has set aside the Jewish people as his separated people from the rest of the earth, right? From the rest of the nations, that's what he did. So I have to continue to remember that. And if he loves them, who am I to hate because of what's going on with me in my own personal life? You understand? It doesn't remove the fact of how much Hashem loves them. Now, to be honest, I know myself personally, I've never seen Hashem not come to my aid when I've experienced these things. And that's another thing is that when my daughter had trouble getting into school because of the color of our skin here, we experienced it. I didn't mean for it to get out in the media because I would never try to slam the school system and different things like that, even though there were big rabbanim that told me it's great it got out. That wasn't my speed. I got called unannounced by the radio. But now that it's out, I talk about it. When that happened to me, the pain, I can't begin to tell you the pain me and my wife were going through every single day. Going to another school, looking at people, and it was very, very hurtful for us. And people would continuously ask me, doesn't that make you want to just give up everything? Like, why would you continue to go to a place that people rejecting you, they're not being so nice, or whatever? And I will always respond to them like, listen, I came to Judaism because Hashem brought me here. My relationship is with Hashem. I never signed up for this because I thought that my kids would get a better education if I became Jewish. You understand? It was not the furthest thing from my thought. It's like they got big Mosdos in Yerushalayim, so I'm gonna convert now. I'm gonna start the process, and in 10 years when I have kids, and I didn't think about all this. So the main thing is that my strength is coming from my relationship with Hashem, and I'm a unique figure in the sense that generally because of the way I lead, and maybe historically, I usually end up in circles where I'm the only brother there. It just happens, right? It's one of the things that happen. I just be the only guy. Look around, you be the only guy. But I feel like because I don't get uncomfortable, everybody else starts to get comfortable. You understand what I'm saying? 100%. So I think that's the biggest thing is figuring out a way to help yourself, help others be comfortable with the fact that you're not uncomfortable.
100%.
Well, thank you so much, Jodeci, for coming on and asking a question which is so personal. And it's great to see you, Jodeci, in good health back on the screen. So we were all praying for you. And Jodeci, just so you know, Nissim, Jodeci was really sick just when the whole COVID-19 kicked off. It actually wasn't with COVID-19, but we had prayers around the clock. And Jodeci's here live and well. So really very special. Thank you, Jodeci.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you, man. Great to see you.
Okay, we've Nissim, can you hear us? Okay.
I can hear you not as well. Somebody called and then it kind of made the sound go like down, but it's okay.
Okay. We've only got time for one or two more questions, and here obviously we've got a lot of people here, so many questions that have come in. But here's one question that people have been asking and that's been on our minds too. Obviously, the slogan of Black Lives Matter everywhere is right. Of course, Black Lives Matter. Every life matters. Many people retort to that slogan saying it should be the all lives matter. What's your view on this?
Very, very tough, you know. It's a very, very tough thing to say because, you know, we all agree that all lives matter. I think by and large, you know, I don't think by and large. I think that if you were having a real honest conversation with somebody, you know, what I mean, like, there's conversations that people can have around other people, and people are watching that conversation, they're observing that conversation, so you may be prompted to say a certain thing. But I mean by having a real conversation with people from, you know, the Black Lives Matter campaign or movement, and of course they would tell you all lives matter. It's not about just Black lives, but we have a responsibility right now to focus on our lives that are, you know, being taken either, through death from, from the police brutality or different things like that, or from even our own brother, because Black Lives Matter isn't, the highest percentage of African Americans dying from other African Americans. So other African Americans, this is an awareness, not just for the world to say, oh, well, Black Lives Matter because, we keep getting killed by white police officers. No, it's bigger. Black people need to know that Black Lives Matter. It's not about just the campaign isn't just for everybody else to see. So we're saying that, oh, they're racist, they only care about Black lives. No, Black people ourselves, we need to know that Black lives matter and that they're valuable. And each person in the world is valuable and has, what to contribute. And when you take another person's life, you also can be taking away his grandparents, his children. You know what I'm saying? It's a value on life, and it needs to be said that way, because it's about more than just the one say even the opposing side. It's about more than just the other side and the other lives of people. It's like we need to have this understanding ourselves, and I feel like because of, like I was saying before, so much of the oppression over 400 years, it's like, I have to, I don't know who started. I'm not very well versed on, on the beginning and the foundation of that movement, and what I'm saying, what it represents at its core. But I can understand it in the sense of them being able to say that, Black people right now, it's a movement. We need our own. We don't have generational wealth to pass down to our children. We don't have, people to, there's no systems in place for us really to succeed. You understand what I mean? And even if you look at a lot of the other successful, Black people, there's plenty of them, right? We don't know how to even build the infrastructure to be able to share the success, because, everything, when after the emancipation of the slaves, right, they didn't know what to do. They had no idea what to do with their time, with their stuff. They're free. I can't read. They never allowed me to read a book. I encourage you, if you look even online, you can hear actual slaves that were alive, recordings of them after the emancipation, completely stuck, don't know what to do. So when you leave, even you talk about a wealthy and successful, let's say Black man or Black woman who breaks even out of this system, they still don't know what to do. You understand what I mean? It's like being broken out of slavery and not really being able to, still didn't have those tools. They're still learning it as they go and being able to try to figure out, how do I pass this down to the next generation and share and uplift the rest of my community. I think right now we're at a time right now where people are starting to learn and they're starting to look for it. But it's something that needs to be said for that reason, because it's not about just everybody else knowing Black Lives Matter. Black people need to know Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm. Nissim, just hearing you speak, I want to tell you something. We chilled when you came here. When you came back, I took you, if you remember, to Hampstead Heath Extension, and we did hit Bodadoo. We sang and played guitar on our own in Hampstead Heath Extension in the middle of the night. And just hearing now, you're such inspiration. I'm going through my, it's COVID-19. It's been, your life is you're so involved with everything, and then hearing the way you're talking, even just what you said before about Hashem, a relationship with Hashem, it breaks through. You have such a power, and it's just such an honor to have you on the show tonight. Really, we're seeing so many views, people logging on to watch you, because people in England, they're hungry for what you have to say. We want to hear your views, and I wish we could have you on, for hours longer, really. But we have to, unfortunately, go with the last question, and the last question really is this: we've got, for all those people, the millions of people that are hurting, they're in pain, in Minneapolis, in LA, in New York, in London, South Africa, wherever they are in the world, wherever we are in the world, people who are hurting and angry and confused and responding with violence. What is your message, Nissim? What's your message? Where are we going to get the hope? Where are we going to get the tikva? Where does the hope come from? What can you tell us? What can you tell us?
The hope. I think the hope is there's no hope but God. At a time right now where the single most important thing, what appears to be, especially from social media and the media, everything else, to each person is their own opinion, right? When everybody's most important thing in their life is their opinion, I don't have time to listen to somebody else, right? And, in the Breslov teachings, Rabbi Nachman, he talks about a certain wind, a wind, a ruach of Ra, evil, this evil wind, this wind that's coming out, and it's so loud that you can't even hear the other person that you're talking to. This is a time of really like of war, not just physically, but internally. Everybody's battling, and I have no interest in hearing what the other person is saying, and it's so clear on my side. I don't even know how you can even pay attention to any of that. And on the other side, it's just as clear. And it's a place of where everything's become irrational, meaning that I have no time to hear what somebody else is saying, because what I'm saying is so important. And I feel like once the world we're seeing has gotten into a state of that, right, you need something very supernatural to come and fix it, because this is not even natural. You know what I mean? We're in a different state. So I feel like, the staple, of us as the Jewish people is prayer. And this is a time where the world and us as a people need redemption. I would say that also from my African American side. This is for all people, for all backgrounds, and all races that believe, in one God. Like, we got to pray. And this is all that we've ever known. If you look back, like I said, at a lot of the African American history and during the time of slavery, people relied on God to set them free. You know what I mean? Everybody in London, they drew out their inspiration from the Hebrew scriptures. Prayer, right? This is the way that redemption comes, and I feel like the more and more people that we're praying together, and we can sort of get ourselves to a place, to where we're able to see that the wind is going down. I can start to see and hear where somebody else is coming from, because that's what we all want. At the end of the day, everybody wants peace. The only problem is everybody only wants it on their terms. You understand? So I feel like the only way is we need a very supernatural council to happen, leadership.
Well, thank you so much, Nissim. On behalf of all of us who've been watching literally around the globe, you joined us from your home in Israel. And please God, we will be back with you very soon and be able to give you a real hug. And it's now more than ever that we feel that time that we're apart. But on behalf of myself, Rabbi Dov, the JLE, and all of us, all our listeners out there, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's late at night. The kids need to go to sleep. And especially a special treat, a big thank you to Nachman for joining us as well. Nachman's gone to sleep. That's beautiful.
I got him, guys. I got him.
Amazing. Look,
Nissim, thank you so much. Such a powerful message, really. And you wait and see. When I see you, man, I'm telling you now, I'm going to win that hug competition. You wait and see, bro. Thank you
We'll
so
see.
much.